So a couple of days ago, Apple announced iPadOS 16. I got my hands on the developer beta, so I had an opportunity to actually try out and test these new features. And I thought I'd share a little walkthrough with you guys today of all the things that are new in iPadOS 16. Let's ramble.
Hold up, place go wild when I pull up. They all on me like at once.
Hey, what's up guys? It's great to see you all again. And if you're new here, I'm Patrick, and this is where I ramble about tech and other stuff. And today I'll be rambling from the new studio. It is nowhere near finished, and it certainly hasn't been treated for audio yet, so please forgive any echo or reverb you might hear. So guys, on Monday, we all sat and watched the keynote at the Apple event in anticipation. Myself probably even more so because I made a pledge to you guys during my little event preview video that I would sell my iPad Pro if Apple didn't bring me some significant updates after last year's huge letdown. Obviously, I wasn't too keen on selling my iPad Pro at all, but I'm a man of my word, and I was in fact frustrated enough to go through with it. Thankfully, Apple finally delivered this time, and they gave us some killer new features in iPadOS. Some of the more pro features, I believe, will only work on M1 devices, and I know a lot of people are disappointed about that, and I totally get that, I really do. But I think Apple realized they had to give something extra, something exclusive, if you will, to all those people that paid so much for their Pro devices without any meaningful benefits. I mean, I had this super expensive 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro spec'd out with 16 gigs laying around here because aside from the amazing display, it pretty much does all the same things my iPad mini can do too. That has changed now, and I do believe that with iPadOS 16, we have now finally stepped into the Pro realm. They are baby steps, but steps nonetheless. So let's go over all the main new features, and I will try to give you a little demonstration of how each of them work. Just a little side note, this is a very earliest beta version of iPadOS 16, so we should reasonably expect it to be very buggy. Things might not work perfectly yet, but Apple usually irons out those things quite well before the public beta is released, which should be somewhere in June. And then they will of course release the polished version to the general public in the fall, normally when the new iPhones are released. I'll be creating update videos, by the way, as we get to that fall date, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already so you know when those are up. I publish new videos at least once a week, so plenty of fresh content coming your way. Anyway, let's get started, and I will show you the new features in the order in which they were presented at the Apple event, just to keep a bit of a structure here. First of all, there is the Weather app. It sounds trivial, but it's been a long requested feature on the iPad, and I can see why. There's a little widget on the home screen, but when we tap on that, you see the entire screen filled with a beautiful dynamic weather bay. If you tap any of the widgets within the app, you will get more detailed information relating to that specific widget. Another new feature is collaboration. Now this one I personally find very useful. If we weren't already used to collaborating online, this pandemic has certainly given everybody a crash course in how to do it. The new collaboration feature in iPadOS 16 makes this process quicker and easier. Instead of hitting share, giving permissions, and all the other steps, you can now simply add people from within apps like Pages. All I have to do to start collaborating is hit the little person icon in the top right corner, and it will ask you how you want to send your invitation. So for instance, if I hit messages, I can just shoot a quick note to my buddy Alex from Alex Gear and Tech, and on his end, he will only need to accept it, and bam, we are collaborating in our sheet. Kind of reminds me of a streamlined version of Google Docs, whereby you can see what collaborators are doing in real time. You can even do this from within FaceTime, which makes collaborating even more in person. Pretty neat. I can't wait for the new Freeform app to be launched later this year, which should give us the ultimate collaboration experience. Should be great for brainstorms and idea generation. Craig Federighi did elaborate a little bit on the improvements in gaming, but I'm gonna skip that for now, focusing on the productivity stuff. The next thing presented at the event was what Apple calls desktop class apps, moving away from basically being blown up versions of their iOS counterparts and more towards apps the way we use them on a Mac. Some features work across the system, and some are specific to certain apps. Like when you create a meeting in Calendar and invite someone, let's invite this handsome fella, you can now check their availability and a screen will appear showing times you are both available. The Files app has seen some significant updates as well, and this is a big one for me, as I'm sure a lot of you guys as well. The Files app has been a giant stone in my shoe ever since I picked up an iPad Pro, but with this update, Apple has definitely made some meaningful improvements. First of all, you can now finally see the actual file extension, so you know what kind of files you're actually dealing with. And you can adjust the extension. For example, if I want this M4V file here to turn into an MP4, I can change that and you will get the same prompt as you would on your Mac. Another addition is the actual file sizes. Now, it's kind of ridiculous that we have to get excited about such basic features, but they simply weren't there before. So I'm happy to see these finally being added. We can also sort the files now, so when we tap on the hamburger menu, we now see View Options at the bottom, where we can choose how we would like our files sorted. If we command click or select a few files and then long press or right click, you get a bunch of options that will apply to all selected files. And lastly, when we open one of these files, you will see a menu on the top left that will list a few options like save, export, or print. All right, moving on to a feature that I personally find very useful and that I can see myself using all the time, and that is reference color. When we create these YouTube videos or any other videos, we want the colors in the video to look good, to look accurate. The problem is that they look very different depending on what monitor you're using. So I could be color grading my video on my home computer monitor and everything looks just great, but when I then see it on someone's iPad or iPhone, it looks super saturated or just off. Reference mode gives me a super accurate color profile. You can see it when I enable it, the monitor turns dim and less vibrant. And this way, when I color grade the footage using the iPad, it should theoretically look great on any device. I really see myself using this a lot, especially since Sidecar and Universal Control have made the iPad Pro such a compelling second display for your workflow. Something I can't really show, but it's definitely worth mentioning, is virtual memory swap. That's something that is now added to the M1 iPad Pro, and that means the storage can be used to expand the available memory, and the full 16 gigs on my iPad Pro can now finally be utilized by those heavy apps. Now, I kept the best for last, in line with the Apple event, of course, because this is probably the feature most people are excited about, and that is Stage Manager. Stage Manager offers a new way of multitasking, which is based on floating resizable windows rather than those predetermined snap areas. Just for your peace of mind, some people get nervous about this because they actually love the way multitasking is currently laid out. Do not worry, Stage Manager is optional and you need to activate it every time you want to use it. The current way of multitasking will still be available and fully functioning. So like I said, if we want to use Stage Manager, we need to pull down Control Center and activate this icon at the bottom. The iPad is now prepped for Stage Manager, and when you tap on an app, you will notice it opens in the new view. It will also show you other recent apps you have open on the left side. Now, for my ADHD brain, that is a huge thing because if I can't see something, it might as well not be there. So being able to see which apps are open and switching between them very easily is a real step up for me. Personally, I don't think I will be using the original way of multitasking on this iPad ever again. You can swipe in apps from the side, move them around, and you can even add more apps straight from the dock. If you want to get rid of it, just tap the minus, and if you want to go full screen on a specific app, you can do that too. The other thing that makes Stage Manager so attractive is that we will now finally get full screen external screen support in Stage Manager mode, without those hideous black bars. Unfortunately, I won't be able to show you this today because I can't get it to work on my display. It's a USB-C display, and theoretically it should work, but it doesn't. But like I said, these beta versions are very buggy, and I'm sure it will work at some point. I've seen it work for some of my fellow creators, by the way, like my buddy Fernando Silva. So if you want to see it in action, I will link to his video in the description below. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, please give it one of these. It really does help the channel. Subscribe for more content. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.